Hey, everybody tuning in. Welcome to our podcast. It is called Panic Button. For those of you that are new here, just really wanted to open up a mental health platform slash advocacy for those that are struggling, those that feel alone, those that don't talk about what they're feeling about, just really anything, to be honest. This could be anything that we want at the end of the day. This could be just a place for you to tune in and hear what I'm going through. Maybe it's something that you relate to, maybe it's something that you don't. But really, I feel like talk therapy is something that we can all internalize and relate to and benefit from, but we're not doing it enough. And that's the issue that I've found facing my own problems is we're not getting enough of talk therapy, or some of us don't even have access to do so. So I wanted to start this podcast to be an advocate and to just be a friend for anyone going through times that don't feel good, that don't feel right, or, just I might say something funny every now or then and you might get a laugh or a smile, or something I say might help you through your day. So that's the main goal here. I'm just gonna be kind of going through my days, what I've dealt with, what I continue to deal with, what's helped me. And by no means am I going to be giving anything medical related, any medical related advice per se. I don't have a doctorate degree. I'm have nothing to do with the medical field, actually. I actually work in logistics, if you want to know a little bit about me. So just kind of taking a stab here in the dark and just really showing some vulnerability about a topic that isn't talked about enough. And I think that a lot of us, again, can benefit from these conversations. And again, even if you don't take anything away from these, maybe I'll make you laugh. Maybe I'll say something stupid again. I probably will. I should put my foot in my mouth half the time, but I'm trying to get through like everybody else. I'm trying to figure out what works for me, figure out what doesn't work for me, taking advice from this person, that person, books, podcasts, quotes, anything that I can to really navigate my way through this anxiety ridden world. A lot of us experience anxiety in one way or another. Most of us experience it in a healthy way, which is just everyday anxiety that when our brain tells us we should be scared of something, and that kicks in and that's fine. But there's a lot of us who experience anxiety or panic in a way that we have no control over. And I think that's what we need to talk about the most, and getting through that and working through that together, again, I think is going to be the most productive way to see any type of results, to make us feel better, to make you feel connected, to make you feel heard. It's going to be beneficial, and that's the plan here, is to just make everyone feel heard and valued. And again, if something I say you relate with, then great. If not, then just skip on to the next podcast that talks about whatever other bullshit you want to hear. I don't know. But just for starters, to let you guys know a little bit about me with this first episode, I have been battling with generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder since 2016. It hit me like a brick. Basically, I was walking to class one day in college and just started to feel very overwhelmed and shaky, and I didn't know what was going on. And I ended up going to the emergency room, doing some tests, and they ended up telling me that this was a panic attack. I was not having a heart attack, which is what all of us assume that we are, unfortunately. And I laugh because we have to laugh, right? We have to stay positive through the negatives. We have to just try to make light of the situation, because if not, it gets heavy and it gets hard. So going back to that, I was diagnosed with panic disorder and generalized anxiety disorder in 2016. So I've been battling that for a handful of time. Have talked to a couple of therapists on and off. I have had medication use for the past years. I don't remember a time that I wasn't on medicine in my adult life for anxiety or panic disorder. And that's fine. Not I'm not somebody that is pro medicine or against medicine, but I think that it has its benefits for the specific user. I know that some of these medicines can be dangerous to people, but some of them, that's how they get through. And for me, it's definitely how I've gotten through. But, recently in 2023, I kind of hit a roadblock. And just to get really personal, and I guess we're going straight forward in our first episode. I lost my dad in 2022, and that was probably the most tragic thing that I have dealt with in my adult life. And obviously, sometimes we think that anxiety and panic should come from these traumatic events, and it does. It usually does. But for me, I think that I buried those feelings for the past year, and now it's starting to finally creep up on me, the effects that it's truly having on my mental health, losing a parent. I'm a new mom. I have a 3.5-year-old son, and that's a story of its own. Biggest pain in the ass there could be, but wouldn't trade him for the world. But, we don't realize how much of an effect these things have on us until we unpack them. And that's, again, going back to the main point of this first episode and this podcast in general for you guys, is I want to unpack what I've gone through and what I continue to go through. And again, if you relate to that, awesome. If you don't, and you're like, that's fucking stupid, then that's fine. I've totally listened to something and I've said, that is stupid. I don't relate to that. And then we move on. That's fine. It's not for everyone. I'm not trying to be everyone's cup of tea. But if I can help one person to relate to something, to have an aha moment or anything like that, then my job here is done. But yeah, I've gone through a handful of traumatic things like everybody else. But, really losing my dad in 2022 was traumatizing. And I didn't feel the effects of it until I would say a couple months ago. A couple months ago into 2023, just kind of had a mental breakdown. Didn't really feel like myself anymore. Just felt like I was kind of here, just kind of floating. And I think sometimes when we get so much pent up anxiety and panic, we start to feel like we're just floating and that what we're doing is we're just getting by. So, I actually reached out to my primary care physician and tried to get some help medication wise. And, that helped here and there. And, as it does, but there's still some things that medicine can't do, in my personal opinion. And that is help us filter these thoughts of, is this going to get better? Can it get better? Can we let it get better? And do we want it to get better almost? Because, we can read quotes all day, of things stating it's going to get better, things move on, etc. We choose to be happy. We've all heard the bullshit that's all over online of people stating it's going to be better, just stop overthinking, relax, this and that. Okay. But that's where it comes back full circle again, where I think sharing these personal experiences is going to be more beneficial to someone listening that doesn't feel comfortable taking medicine, to know that they're not alone and to know that we can get through this and we will get through this. It's just a matter of how we want to, how we choose to have our journey, how we choose to let this either make or break us, right? Kind of like everything else, it's sink or swim. And I hit rock bottom, again, full transparency. I hit rock bottom and I decided to make a positive comeback, I guess you could say. I don't want to be a victim to anxiety and panic disorder. I think sometimes we fall into poor me. Why am I dealing with this? And, I've had those moments as well. But I don't want to do that anymore. I want to, per se, grab it by the balls and show it who's boss. I'm tired of day in and day out having this cloud over me that feels like nothing is okay and that I'm never going to break this, because that's not true. We got to take back that power. We need to stay positive as hard as it may seem, and we need to talk about it. And again, that is where this podcast comes into play, is I'm going to talk about it. And if you want to listen, great. If you don't, again, all right. Sorry I wasn't your cup of tea. I'm not for everyone. I'm a little spicy. I probably don't taste the best. I don't have a gallbladder anymore, so I can't eat a lot of fun food. But, I'm over here trying my best like we all are, and that's all that we can ask for. So again, just kind of going back to my story, been on medication for 7 years, had a mental breakdown in 2022 from the passing of my father, and I'm just trying to figure it out like you. I have a 3-year-old son, and I don't think that we talk enough about how anxiety affects you when you're a parent. And that's something probably for another podcast. I don't want to throw too many topics into here. This was just going to be an introduction to tell you what this is about, to tell you kind of what I'm about, what we're going to be talking about. I have a couple books that I want to look into, give you guys some tips and tricks. And again, if you take away nothing, I'm sorry I wasted your time. I'd hope that you'd have skipped by now. It's almost been 12 minutes into this podcast. But if you've decided to stick around and you've decided this is something that you'd be interested in, then I really, really appreciate the support, because that's what it is, right? It's support. At the end of the day, you're following me on my journey, and I hope to learn a little bit more about your journey. And I have an Instagram that is now live, and I will share the link at some point. If you want to follow me, my Instagram tag is panic_button podcast. And there I'm just kind of just being positive and just shedding some positivity on this terrible thing that some of us deal with, because it is terrible. We don't want to deal with it. And I just want everyone to know that there's someone out there listening and someone out there going through what you're going through, and we need to talk about it. It's uncomfortable to talk about, but we need to talk about it. We need to get our feelings out. We need to get what's out of our mind so we can overcome it. And so we can do that together. So that's the overall plan here. Again, I'm going to probably release a episode or so a week, kind of see how this goes, give you guys some more information about myself, some more information from books that I read. Again, maybe you guys can gather some tips and tricks. I don't know. I don't really care. I'm still going to do it. So whatever you take from it, great. And feel free to reach out to me directly on my Instagram if you have any specific topics you'd like to talk to me about, or if you'd like me to answer any questions or what questions you have for me. I'm going to be an open book here. I think this is a great forum for me to get my feelings out and for you to not feel alone, and for us to just have a conversation about what needs to be heard. People need to hear these things. People need to release these things. So it could be an outlet for all of us, and I hope that that's what it really turns into. But otherwise, I think I'm going to wrap this up here. It's a shorter podcast. I promise they'll be a little bit longer next time. But again, I don't want to be ranting and rambling and going off topic, but this is just going to be an open forum. I'm just going to shoot the shit with you guys, tell you what I'm going through. And if it helps, it helps. And, if not, we'll get through it together, and kind of go fuck yourself if it doesn't help, because I think it might. No, I'm only kidding. It's not for everyone. I get it. Talking to people and talking about our situations is hard. It's really hard, and it's terrifying, and it makes you feel weak when we talk about these things, because it opens up a level of vulnerability. And I'm, for instance, do not share my feelings. So this is huge for me. This is an outlet for me. You guys listening is just being an outlet for me to get these thoughts out of my head, into the world, out of my head. Because when they're out of my head, I feel better. We feel clearer. We feel safe. So that's all I'm trying to do here, is just make this a safe conversation. If it helps you, then I'm doing my job right. But this is just my side job. Won't quit my day job. Because I don't think I'll be the best at this, but again, just trying to shoot the shit with you guys. And yeah. So again, my Instagram, panic_button podcast. Give me a follow. I'll give you a follow back. Shoot me a direct message. You could even do it anonymously, excuse me. That's even a hard word to spell. I don't think I could ever even spell anonymously. And I'm almost 30 years old, so full transparency again. But yeah, we're going to figure this out, and you're not alone, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to dissect this. We're going to dissect our mind, and we're not going to push that panic button. We're going to figure it out. Stay tuned, guys.